And welcome, ma'am.
Morning, Brother B. Good morning, Jamani. Good morning, all of Tobago. It's a pleasure to be with you once again.
Very good. So before we got on air, I gave you a taste of my Calypso calling Tobago yard, and it's dealing with the crisis that we just had to deal with the boat, the MV Cabo Star, broke down, caught a fire in August, and obviously we are now have to face with this Venezuelan vessel. But just give an overall as to your response when this crisis first occurred.
Okay, when this crisis occurred on the 23rd of August, I wasn't in the country at the time, but I kept abreast of what was taking place. As we know, a fire started in the engine room and damaged the engine, damaged cable wires and so on. Immediately we had to start transporting perishable goods, pharmaceuticals and food and so on the fast ferry. Of course, immediately on that day, I think about 11:15 or so, the Port Authority issued an announcement letting people know that this is the situation and we are going to be carrying vehicles weighing 7,000 kgs and less on the fast ferry. Of course, that would only cover the non-perishables and pharmaceutical goods because we gave those priority. So we had some challenges, or it pretty much held up the construction sector. So we then got the Empanadora to come in through our arrangement with Bridgeman Services, and they are now dealing with the construction sector. All the full capacity has not been used up each day. When you check the figures of the number of persons, number of vehicles going between Trinidad and Tobago on the APT James, the Buku Reef, and the Galleons Passage, there hasn't been 100% uptake on some days. Now, in the first 2 days, we had some challenges, but I think the backlog has been dealt with as it relates to food and perishable items and pharmaceuticals. The Empanadora,
the Spanish boat.
The Spanish boat, the Venezuelan vessel. I don't want to call it a boat because it's a temporary vessel being used. Started the day before yesterday, and they have been working on the construction sector. And as far as I understand from the port, no truck has been left behind. As of yesterday, they were transporting vans and trucks and containers and so on between Trinidad and Tobago, and that continues today. I know the Galleons Passage would be taken off today for some mandatory work as it relates to replacing the life, the rafts, the life raft. That's a normal part of its certification and so on, and that will take 4 days from the 14th to the 18th. Galleons Passage will come back on the 19th.
All right. Okay, let me just ask you quickly, with this occurring recently with the engine room and stuff, which is something no one would really expect, but naturally would expect that some maintenance work would happen because this MV Cabo Star is normally the main boat servicing the sea bridge in terms of material, perishable food and so on. But what are the discussions right now with regards to your colleagues in central government with regards to working towards potentially having a secondary vessel servicing the sea bridge, or some sort of contingency planning? Is it immediate conversations taking place?
To say a secondary boat so that we have two cargo boats happening at the same time, no, that's not the conversation for the long run. We are working on building a vessel to suit our needs. There has been consultation with the Tobago fraternity, the truckers and so on as it relates to the specification. At first we were going to tender for it, and we decided to now embark on a government-to-government arrangement. Right now, as we speak, there's even an advertisement in local and international media for a cargo vessel that is more suited for us. In the meantime, the Cabo Star has been doing the work. Day by day, the Cabo Star has not been filled to capacity in its movement between Trinidad and Tobago. But however, there is need for a boat that more suits our needs based on our consultations and the specification given to us by the stakeholders. And we are working on getting a new vessel. So the advertisement is out locally and internationally, and we are currently engaged in government talks towards doing the arrangement in the same way we did with the hostile vessels for the inter-island passenger ferries. Maybe we'll get a better arrangement that way. We're exploring that option. Those conversations are happening right now, and are expected to wrap up in 2 weeks. And if we don't come to a place of agreement with the government with whom we're negotiating, we go back on the open market to tender for somebody to build.
So on this vessel, of course, the Galleon's Passage is on contract, obviously, through Bridgman Service, and they provide that service which
the
you have to pay for.
No,
well,
yes, through Bridgman.
Bridgman, all right. You just spoke about an option for another vessel, which you say, no, the government is not interested in that.
Not to have two running at the same time, because of capacity. The Cabo Star itself is not filled to capacity on many given days. Yes, so to have another boat running, another cargo vessel running alongside it just in case it breaks down. It's just like thinking about you have a car to go to. Do you buy 2 cars, pay 2 insurance, go to 2 sets of maintenance just in case one day you wake up and you're, so the days when of course, ferries would have to be serviced and so on the days of servicing, we use the fast ferries for that short period of servicing. And the Cabo Star has been operating, and we're looking for something that better suits our needs. And hopefully we get proper response as it relates to the international arrangement while we are working on building our own boats.
Great. All right. Well, so let's come to options in the future. And there's this, we had the chairman of the Port Authority, Mr. Alexander, and we discovered, Madam Minister, that there's a clause that is, and the conversation about direct shipping came up. And we would discover on the very set here that there's a clause that preventing direct shipping. You as Minister of Tobago West would all to know well the cost of living in Tobago as a result of goods start to travel to and from Tobago or from Trinidad to Tobago. Is the government thinking, or is there any accommodation in a conversation to get rid of that clause to allow for direct shipping? And is direct shipping an option?
Let's go beyond the clause, because in the operation of shipping, it's not only the law. And in many things in Trinidad and Tobago, it's only the law. It's the capacity. It's the ability to do what needs to be done. I am hoping and trusting that one day we'll be able to do that. We'll develop the capacity to do so ourselves. It's not only a matter of the law. If we develop the means of doing direct shipping, then we adjust the law to suit us.
But what do you mean by the means? What do you mean?
The means, like as it relates to having the necessary arrangements at the port and what is needed to do it, So it's not only law. So let's not say we're hamstrung by the law prevent. Laws are meant to be changed to suit your different circumstances. That's why there is a parliament, and we go to the parliament and draft law to suit our circumstances as it relates to what we have to do. So if we're seeing a new direction or something better could be done, let's do the background work. Let's do the feasibility study. Let's look at whether we can or cannot and what is needed to make that happen, and then address the law. But to say it's written in law and it prevents us.
All right.
No.
So
That's why we have a parliament.
Okay,
change laws to suit
all right, let me
operations.
ask you. So the feasibility study, yesterday we had Mr. Q here, and he was saying that we don't have the volume of business to allow for direct shipping. There are those who would argue and say, yes, we do.
In your view, rather than have an emotional discussion, let's do the economic impact study. I think the Tobago House of Assembly could do that. A Tobago House of Assembly that's crying out for that, even along with the central government hand in hand. Let's do the economic impact study. I think we have so many emotional discussions without coming up with the facts or looking at the figures and the statistics. Say we need to do so because X, Y, Z. Let's talk figures. Like I can say yesterday, the Galleon's Passage sailed, and this is what it looked like yesterday. I think that's the kind of conversation we're supposed to be having. On Tuesday, the Bucco Reef, with a capacity of carrying 950 passengers and 190 vehicles, carried 473 passengers and 182 vehicles. The Galleon's Passage, which has a capacity to carry 400 passengers and 60 vehicles, carried 43 passengers and 31 vehicles. I think that's the kind of conversation. So, and you look at your figures day to day to see whether or not, let's talk about this morning, today, the APT James left Tobago at 6:40 with a capacity to carry 889 passengers. It carried 430 passengers with a capacity to carry 190 vehicles. It carried 153 vehicles. You know what I'm saying? So yesterday, the Emperor the Dora, with the capacity I think of carrying 60 vehicles, carried 16 vehicles, 5 20-foot container, 20-foot flatbeds, 2 40-foot flatbeds, and 6 20-foot containers. You know, so let's look at that and see what has to be carried, what do we carry on a day-to-day basis, what is needed, what needs to be shipped directly, and so on. Let's do that economic impact study, develop the policy and the legislation. Nothing is written in stone, and as a growing, developing Tobago, we have to have those conversations and make those moves.
Yeah, and that is the thing, and persons would also clamor for the relationship between central government and the THA in terms of funding, in terms of having those conversations and actually following through with certain promises. And you wouldn't just look at the data for one particular week, you would look at the high seasons, the low seasons, and so on. But what is that? Now, obviously, with regards to the inter-island situation, with the sea bridge, that falls under Mr. Sinanan's ministry. But generally, though, when we look at your involvement as the member of parliament,
not only member of parliament, as a member of the cabinet.
Right. You are suggesting it here on set, but is this an ongoing conversation with your colleagues?
When you say an ongoing conversation about what?
Well, with regards to these studies and
the very fact that the port is providing one set of information to us, telling us that we are not filling the capacity. If in Tobago we are saying we have a different opinion, we have X, Y, or Z volume of business happening, then I think the Tobago House of Assembly should show that, because the Port Authority is telling us X. And if we in Tobago are saying something different, then our Tobago House of Assembly should be able to say, listen here, Port Authority, I'm challenging your information, I'm challenging your data. This is what our study says. That's what PRDI was set up to do. That's what Division of Planning was set up to do. That is what the Division of Finance and the Economy of the Tobago House of Assembly set up to do. So rather than going out there and having wild conversations and trying to incite hate and fighting and that type of thing, and war and this and war and that, let's have intelligent conversation to be building a country. We're creating a brighter future for children. We are going to go away and leave this thing, and they're going to look back at what did you do with your 4 years? What did you do with your 5 years? What foundation have you laid for us to build on as a people? So we can go about having these conversations, Trinidad suffering we, and so on, and not having the conversation about implementing strategies so that we can provide our own bread.
And just quickly,
internal self-government and so on.
And we care for everyone bread.
Yes, and you're telling me we haven't provided even classes and grants to people who make bread. Could we at least set an example in providing ourselves with bread?
Madam Minister, our time is going and we have to go into a cup of tea if you have the time, because we'll continue this conference. But lastly, I have to ask, you said that let's get away from the emotions and deal with the real issues. And I like the part when you say do the feasibility study for this direct shipping, because that has been part of a political football for a number of years. And you said it should be the Tobago House of Assembly.
Yeah,
you as Minister or MP for Tobago West, are you willing to sit down with all stakeholders to have this conversation about a feasibility study to ensure that we have direct shipping, thereby easing this whole burden of bringing everything from Trinidad?
We don't only want to have a conversation about a feasibility study. We want to see a feasibility study done, and in any way that we can help as central government, as minister, as MP for Tobago West. When I returned home from college, I worked in PRDI, I worked in planning, doing research work and so on. So I know the facility and the people are there to do the work. So it's a matter of the Tobago House of Assembly saying to this unit, hey, we want you to do a study on such and such. And let's have these conversations, but to have these emotional talks, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time and it's a waste of energy. And you recognize the time is going. We will call George Hickok in the morning, we'll write and so on. But what is really happening to cause that paradigm shift and to cause people to move in a new direction, so we could at least provide ourselves bread.
Excellent. We got
and peas and pumpkin and so on. And you know what? I have to agree. I'm going to agree with Faith, with Dr. Faith Bremner, where she said we don't necessarily have a food shortage crisis. We have a crisis with not wanting what we produce and not feeling that need to produce more and to develop that appetite. The fact that you're choosing cornflakes over farine, that's a conversation we have to have. The fact that you are importing different foreign goods to get vitamin C, and what happened to local cherries and tamarind and so on, we have to still have that conversation. We're not asking everybody to turn rasta and go and, eat from the ground and so on. But we know who we are as a people. But Brother B, before we go, I want to say that Caribbean Airlines has started adding on flights or adding new flights, and we should see that appear for the public's consumption over today or tomorrow. I came to Tobago on a 9:30 flight last night, and I saw a 10:35 leaving, so these things are happening.
We got to leave it there. We'll take it up in a cup of tea, and of course we share more information. Jamani, we got